My name's Steve Broderick, and this is Town Line Sugarhouse in Eastford, Connecticut. I have 265 taps out right now. I would hope in an average year to make 60 to 70 gallons of syrup. The nights need to get down well below freezing, and the days up at least into the low 40s and preferably warmer. That creates that sort of alternating, negative, positive pressure in the trees that forces the sap out. Generally, there's liquid all through, the tree cells are shaped like tubes, basically, if you look at them under a microscope. And there's generally liquid all the way up and down through them. There's gases in there as well as liquids, and as it gets cold, those gases go into solution and everything kind of constricts, and that creates a negative sort of sucking pressure that allows the roots to suck moisture in. And then during the day, all that reverses, as it warms up, it expands, and those gases come back out of solution, and that sort of forces the sap up those tubes up to the growing parts of the tree. Normally you tap about 1.5 inches deep, and anything more than that, they've proven through research, you don't really get any more sap, but you do more damage to the tree. And the idea is you tap just enough, 1 or 2 holes depending on the size of the tree, in a pattern around the tree, so that by the time you've worked all the way back around to where you started, the tree should have grown at least 1.5 inches of new wood, in that much more in diameter, so that you can theoretically tap right over where you tapped years ago, and you're tapping into all fresh wood, if you follow me. With me shooting to make about 70 gallons of syrup a year, I try and have 3 cords of wood available, because that's typically how it seems to work out, is 1 cord will produce about 25 gallons of syrup. For here, I'll burn anything. Most of what we end up burning is oak, hickory, maple, and ash. But I have no problem with burning pine or hemlock in this evaporator. In fact, sometimes to mix a little pine and hemlock in with the hardwood makes for even better fire. The name of the game is to boil as rapidly as you can, because that makes a higher quality syrup, and it also reduces the amount of time that you're having to boil your sap. And the draft from the smokestack actually is what drives the flames, or pulls the flames up underneath the back pan and gets the whole thing boiling. Now, the quicker you can fire and get the door closed again, the more rapidly you'll be able to boil. Well, the way this thing works is that the sap runs through this feed line from an overhead tank outside and enters into this float chamber. This is called the sap pan, and the front pan is called the syrup pan. By the time it gets down here and you draw it off, it's gone from 2.5% sugar to 66% sugar. The way we determine whether we've got syrup is that syrup boils at 7 degrees above the boiling point of water. It's a denser, more viscous liquid, so it needs higher temperature to come to a boil. So we have a thermometer here that we can watch, and as the temperature starts creeping up, we know what the boiling point of water is for this day and this atmospheric pressure. It's not always 212 degrees. Once we get close to the boiling point, to the 7 degrees above the boiling point of water, then it's time for us to test with a tool called a hydrometer, which measures the density of the liquid. On the brick scale, as it's called, the most commonly used sugaring density scale, 59 degrees is actually standard density syrup. There's a tremendous potential for Connecticut to expand the sugaring business. We have many thousands of acres of forest in Connecticut that have enough sugar maple on them so that they could be managed for maple production. It's estimated that we only tap about 1/10% of all the sugar maples in the state of Connecticut that are of tappable size. We also are right in the middle of the world's best market, where southern New England and New York City area, where the prices are highest and the demand is strong. So there's a great potential for the sugaring industry to grow in our state in the years ahead.